So welcome to Wedge15 TV, the place to get social media advice that works. This is Gloria and Ricardo, and today we have a very special interview for you with the man who Business Week says is one of the top 20 people every entrepreneur should know. He's a New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, and he launched WineLibrary.com, growing it from 3 million to 45 million a year. He has a committed following of 900,000 people on Twitter, and along with his little bro AJ, he launched VaynerMedia, helping big companies find their social media voice. So Wedge15 is very proud to introduce you to Gary Vaynerchuk. Thanks for being with us, Gary.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome. So to create a little context, who we're speaking with today, our communities are entrepreneurs and organizations, and we want to help them understand how to think about social media and how to use it for their business. So, Gary, what is the best way for entrepreneurs to get the attention they deserve on social media?
Well, Ricardo, the funny answer is to bring value, right? So it starts with the content or with what you're doing. So, social media is no different than any other platform that's ever come along, whether it's been print or radio or television. It's an amplification. If used right, it's very special. I think what has actually made it different is it's a two-way dialogue instead of just pushing out your message. But at the end of the day, if you don't bring value, if you don't bring entertainment value, if you don't bring information value, if you don't bring something to the table, no matter how hard you try to amplify it through Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, it's not going to matter because you're going to maybe you'll get the exposure, but you'll never have the retention or the building aspect. And that's the number one thing I would ask every entrepreneur or business that's listening to this interview. If you don't think your product or service is good enough, nothing's going to change anything about the end result.
Yeah, I get that. So on that notion of value, what is a complete waste of time, and what's going to actually make a difference in building an authentic relationship with your customers?
Well, it's funny the way you asked that question. I think people, what concerns them about social is how much time it actually takes. To me, nothing is a waste of time if you're talking to the end consumer, right? So, if I'm tweeting back and forth, if I'm doing an interview, here's a great example. Ricardo, my PR people are bonkers upset about me doing this interview series. They think the 15 minutes I'm spending with you right now is a waste of time. They think that I should spend this 15 minutes on the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. Why do they think that? They think that because more people will hear it, right? Obviously you have an audience, but obviously the New York Times audience is bigger. My thought is a little bit different. My thought is, okay, the New York Times might have millions of people, and you may have hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands. I'm not even, as you probably are aware, I'm not sure. I haven't asked a lot of questions to how big is your audience or anything of that nature. But if one person hears this and I make an impact, I think there's value for that 15 minutes. And more importantly, the real value comes into the allocation that I gave of time to you guys, right? So you guys having context for me and knowing a little bit about me and knowing a lot about me, I even noticed the way you introduced AJ and you said bro, which is exactly how I call him. So clearly you've paid attention to me, and I'm very flattered by that, and I think giving back to the people that care about you most is always the right move. So, you asked the question, and it sounds like it's an efficiency question because you guys are aware that a lot of people think this is a waste of time. I'm just a long-term thinker. I'm playing the long game. Giving people effort is what people want, and I just don't think any of it's a waste of time.
That's awesome. Yeah, obviously we share that sentiment. We, like you, are marathon runners rather than sprinters, and on that front, we loved the Inc. 500 keynote you gave, so it's also embedded underneath this interview for everyone to watch over a glass of wine. But the one thing you said that I really loved was your Beyonce statement. You said, you used Beyonce as an analogy that if you're going to be on social media, put a ring on it. So can you tell us a little bit more about why you think about it that way?
Well, so much on the theme of the last question I answered, I do think that we're marrying customers now instead of, or let me rephrase, the opportunity in social is to marry your customer instead of dating them. I do think that in radio and print, in television, in billboards, you have these fleeting seconds to push your message down. And they just remind me of kind of a pickup line where you're trying to close and look for that one-night stand. Whereas social, there's been people I've been back and forth conversating with now for 6 years on Twitter, and the relationship's just dramatically different, and it's bigger, and that's the exact person that's going to buy 10 copies of my book this fall and give 9 away versus the person that might see a banner ad, or if I blast to 1 million people or a JV list. I mean, I don't know, like everybody's just thinking shortcuts. And, obviously I'm always thinking about new ways to communicate. Pop culture always works. The Beyonce reference works because it makes people understand what I'm talking about, which is if you want to do business in the future, I do believe it's predicated on deeper relationships because there's so much information out there right now. The supply and demand curve of telling your story has changed. Just shouting out your message, it worked in the 50s or 60s because if you were on a TV show and half the country was watching it, well, then you converted a lot of them. But now when you're shouting, there's 80 million shows, there's 8 trillion websites, there's 1 billion apps. There's just so much more pulling at people's attention. You're yelling to a smaller crowd. So to me, the way to really win that game is if you're yelling to a smaller crowd, make those relationships deep, and so that they amplify your message and you start scaling instead of it just being you.
Perfect. So, in fact, that ties into a lot of questions that we get from the people we work with is we're 1 or 2 person operation. We're doing everything from taking the garbage out to signing checks at the end of the day. So what is it that you tell those entrepreneurs of how to leverage their time online?
Well, I think the question becomes, I think, and it's so fun to get interviewed by people that know your spiel. Like, you know what my answer is going to be because you've seen me, right? But I'm going to take you for a different turn because if I'm doing so many interviews, I'm trying to mix it up and make it worth it, value for everybody. Let me take you to a different place, which is you've got to really ask those entrepreneurs, what do they want, right? So if they're talking to you based on what I'm hearing you guys do, they obviously have a want or need to grow their business, right?
Right.
And so if they do, well, then they need to stop crying. Like, I know they do the trash and checks. I did it too. But I found more time. Like, it just comes down to that. Like, how many hours are you sleeping? And what are you doing in this moment or that moment? I mean, the fact of the matter is there's 2 answers. 1, there's always a couple more hours a day. Or 2, for the 1 or 2% that there aren't, which are very few, and I promise most of the people listening right now, you're not one of them, because if you spend any time on anything recreational or something that isn't your business, then you're not one of them. But for the people that are 1,000%, like my dad, who is 1,000% all business, no Little League games of mine, no watching TV, no anything, just all business. For those people, those are the people you need to audit, and say, okay, if you want to grow your business, with all due respect, go hire somebody for $8 an hour to throw out your trash. I think too many entrepreneurs and small businesses wear a badge of honor of doing the small things, and doing the small things is a really quick way to have a small business.
That's perfect. I mean, that's one of the reasons we do what we're doing, especially through Wedge15 TV, is because we really believe in empowering the business owners, the entrepreneurs, and the organizations to do this work for themselves. I mean, this is not something light and fluffy to outsource to other people. This is something that, this is your voice, this is your story, this is what you exist for as a business. So I appreciate that answer.
I also think what's happening right this minute is a really important indication to everybody. I mean, this is a Saturday afternoon, right? And you guys have your lives and I have my life, right? I mean, I have 2 young kids, and I want to be spending every moment with them that I can, and I work 24/7, 365, Monday through Friday, so the weekends are pretty holy grail. But here we are, right? And so anybody listening right now, like, nothing for nothing, I could stop now, and I've got plenty of financial rewards and all the things that I'm very aware of my situation, which is there's 99% of the people listening to this that wish they had. If they had what I had right now, they would think they made it, right? But here I am on a Saturday afternoon, hustling and answering questions, bringing more exposure to my brand and giving back to people that, appreciate my brand. And so the proof is in this. You guys could be just chugging along. You don't need to be providing this service for an amplification. You're going to use this video, this interview, and you're going to, now you've got somebody who's got street cred in social media, and this interview is going to help your business because more people are going to listen to this interview than the norm because it's me. And so, here we are, the 3 of us, just hustling along on a Saturday afternoon where plenty of people are taking a nap right now or watching, college basketball.
You got it. Belarus, Budapest, and Trinidad right here. So, all right. So, Gary, we got a little lightning round for you. You ready to buckle up?
Yep.
All right. So finish these sentences for us, please. I wish I never...
Oh, my God. I wish I never... You know, you guys know me pretty well. That is a really... This is the only time I get... You've watched me for a long time. You know I can answer right away. I am incapable of thinking about spilled milk or the negative. I just don't even know how to answer that question, and it's not a spiel. Like, I'd love to come up with something. I wish I never became a Jets fan. A Giants fan would have been easier.
Right.
Who is somebody we're going to know in 5 years?
Who's somebody we're going to know in 5 years?
Yeah.
That's a really, really, really good question. Meaning somebody that most of us don't know right now?
Yeah.
Boy, that's a good question. I would say Paul Berry, the CEO of Rebel Mouse, which I should disclose is an investment I've made, but I really believe a lot more people are going to know him.
What makes you smile every time?
Oh, man, that's super easy. My daughter.
Yeah, she's a cutie.
What's the last wine you drank?
The last wine I drank was a Gewürztraminer from Austria. Oh, no, actually, nope. I had a Luigi Pira 2004 Barolo last night.
What app can you not live without?
I'm sorry, what can't I live without?
What app can you not live without?
Darn it, I don't know why that's chopping. That's chopping on me, that word.
App.
Can you spell it? I can't get it. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. So here's my Soviet Union question for you. What does everyone need to know about Belarus?
What does everybody need to know about founders?
About Belarus.
Oh, Belarus.
Yes.
What does everybody need to know about Belarus? That it's the last dictatorship in Europe, and that's super sad.
Gary, that's everything we have for you. That's your full 15 minutes. So I just want to wrap up by...
Hold on, I want to answer the one question I didn't catch. What was the one task I can't live without?
App.
I don't know why I came here with this word. Can you spell it? What?
APP. App.
Oh, application, guys. Thank you so much. I'm the worst. Thank you so much. It's definitely Tweetbot.
Tweetbot.
Yep, Tweet, Tweet bot. It's my Twitter application that I use.
Awesome. Sweet. So that's everything we got. Gary, thank you so much for taking time out of your family day to spend with us. And
my pleasure.
For everybody who isn't already following Gary, you should. It's at Gary V, GaryVee on Twitter. You can also click on this episode to tweet this out to all your entrepreneur friends who need to hear what you have to say. And we highly recommend you grab a glass of wine and sit down to watch Gary's talk from Inc. 500 in 2011. It's probably the best education you're going to get about this space all year. So thanks again.
And that's it for Wedge15 TV, and we'll see you next time.